Hey everyone, hope you're doing well today. There's been a big shakeup in Washington that could affect how two of the most important agencies in the country operate: the Social Security Administration and the IRS. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just appointed Frank Bisignano, the current head of Social Security, to also lead the IRS. That's right, for the first time ever, one person is running both agencies. It's a move that's turning a lot of heads, raising some eyebrows, and has people asking, what does this mean for the rest of us? Could this change how Social Security and taxes are handled going forward? Stay with me because there's a lot to break down here, and understanding it now could really help you make sense of what's coming next. Before we get started, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's a good idea for one person to run both Social Security and the IRS, or is that too much power in one set of hands? Let me know what you think in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to keep getting clear updates about Social Security, taxes, and other changes that affect your wallet. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening. Frank Bisignano, who's been leading the Social Security Administration since May, has now been named the first ever Chief Executive Officer of the IRS. That's a brand new title, and this is the first time it's ever been used. Normally, IRS leaders are called commissioners and are confirmed by the Senate. But in this case, Treasury Secretary Bessent created the new CEO position and appointed Bisignano directly, skipping Senate confirmation. Some people see this as a smart, efficient move. Others see it as a major overreach of authority. You see, both the IRS and the Social Security Administration handle trillions of dollars and deal directly with nearly every American. One collects taxes, the other pays out benefits. So the idea of putting one person in charge of both is, well, historic and maybe risky. The thinking behind this, according to Bessent, is that both agencies have similar problems and similar goals. Both are struggling with outdated technology, staff shortages, and huge workloads. And both are under pressure to improve customer service. In his announcement, Bessent said this move will sharpen the focus on collections, privacy, and customer service, aiming to deliver better results for Americans. And on paper, that sounds good. If you tried calling the Social Security office recently or dealt with long IRS wait times, you probably get why the idea of streamlining sounds appealing. But of course, the question everyone's asking is whether one person can really handle both, or if this just makes a difficult situation even more complicated. So who exactly is Frank Bisignano? Well, before joining the government, he worked in the private sector, holding top roles at major financial companies like JP Chase and Fiserv. He's known as a tough, results-driven manager who's good at fixing messy systems. At Fiserv, for example, he helped lead digital upgrades and major efficiency overhauls. That kind of experience might come in handy right now, because both the IRS and the SSA are facing huge internal challenges. And to be honest, the IRS really is in rough shape. Since President Trump's second term began, the agency has gone through 7 commissioners or acting commissioners. One of them, a former congressman named Billy Long, lasted just 53 days before being reassigned to Iceland as an ambassador. The leadership turnover has been wild. And it's not just leadership either. Nearly 2/3 of the IRS's senior executive positions are either empty or being filled by temporary stand-ins. And then there are the staff cuts. Under the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, around 17% of IRS employees in the Accounts Management Department were let go. That's the team that actually handles taxpayer issues, refunds, and corrections. The problem is most of those workers had solid performance reviews, and their departure has led to longer backlogs and slower service times. If you've ever waited months for your refund or a response to a letter, you probably know how bad it can get. Watchdog reports are already warning that the paperwork backlog could reach record levels again by next year. Meanwhile, the Social Security Administration hasn't had it easy either. When Bisignano took over earlier this year, SSA was struggling with long phone wait times, frustrated customers, and staff shortages from the same government-wide cuts. Some call center employees were reassigned to handle frontline duties they weren't fully trained for. Wait times spiked so badly that the agency had to temporarily shift office workers to phone duty just to handle the volume. So, the logic behind this appointment seems to be, why not put one proven manager in charge of both? If someone has a record of fixing things and making systems more efficient, maybe they can bring some order to the chaos. At least, that's how Secretary Bessent is framing it. But not everyone's convinced. Advocacy groups like Social Security Works have strongly criticized the move, saying it risks leaving Social Security without a full-time leader. Nancy Altman, who heads the group, said, "Seniors, people with disabilities, and their families deserve a full-time Social Security commissioner. Full stop." And she's not alone. Max Rickman from a National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare also spoke out, warning that combining leadership could weaken oversight. And former IRS Commissioner John Koskinen was pretty blunt about it. He said it would never even occur to him to try to run both agencies, especially heading into tax season. Nina Olson, who used to serve as the IRS taxpayer advocate, called it a gamble. She pointed out that after so many cuts and rehires, the IRS is already struggling to rebuild institutional knowledge, meaning they're trying to bring back employees who know how things actually work. Her concern is that this leadership shakeup could make things worse before they get better. Now, let's talk about why this is happening right now, because timing matters here. The new 2026 tax season is going to be a big one. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which was signed back in July, made some major changes to the tax system, including new deductions for tipped workers, overtime pay, seniors, and people living in high-tax states. That means the IRS has to rework tax forms, train staff, and update software, all in just a few months. And they need to do it during a partial government shutdown with less money and fewer people. Watchdogs are already warning that with about a quarter of the IT staff gone and new scanning systems not yet working properly, this tax season could be especially messy. At the same time, the funding situation is complicated. Remember when the Biden administration set aside $80 billion for IRS modernization and enforcement? Well, most of that has been clawed back. Only around $13 billion has actually been spent so far. So even though the IRS has more responsibilities than ever, it's operating with less stability and fewer resources. So yeah, it's a tough environment to walk into. And if Bisignano really can turn things around, it would be a huge achievement. The question is, can one person manage both agencies effectively, especially with so much political and operational pressure? You see, this isn't just about leadership style, it's about accountability. Social Security and the IRS both directly affect people's lives in different but equally personal ways. If your Social Security payment is delayed or your tax refund is held up, that's real stress, real bills, real consequences. Having both agencies under one leader might speed up communication between them, or it might stretch that leader too thin. And that's what worries a lot of people. There's the risk of burnout, confusion, or mistakes that ripple across both systems. After all, these aren't small operations. Social Security serves over 70 million beneficiaries, and the IRS processes more than 260 million tax returns each year. That's not exactly something you can manage on the side. At the same time, some argue this could actually help coordination. Think about it. The SSA and IRS already share a lot of data. Social Security benefits are taxed based on income data that comes from IRS filings. The IRS verifies income for SSA purposes. So if one leader can align their systems and improve communication, it could make the process smoother for everyone. Imagine getting clearer statements about how your benefits or taxes interact, or faster resolution when information doesn't match between the two agencies. That's the kind of efficiency people are hoping for, but depends on how it's handled. Now, one of the things that stands out about Bisignano is his private sector mindset. He's used to running large organizations that reward quick decision-making and measurable results. In a government, though, things move differently. There are checks, balances, public scrutiny, and congressional oversight. Every decision can get tangled in politics. So it's fair to ask whether a business-style approach can really work in an environment that runs on accountability rather than profit. Bisignano himself has said he doesn't see Social Security as something to privatize. In fact, during his Senate hearing, he said he's never even considered privatizing it. His view is that these agencies exist to serve the American public, not to turn a profit, but to run as efficiently as possible. So it seems he's at least aware of that balance. Still, the stakes couldn't be higher. The IRS has to implement major tax law changes. The SSA is trying to reduce backlogs and improve customer service, and both agencies are struggling to hire and train staff. Add an intense political environment with midterm elections coming up, and it's a lot to manage all at once. And what's more, both agencies are part of the same broader challenge: rebuilding public trust. Over the years, many Americans have lost faith in government institutions, feeling like systems are too slow, too complicated, or just too disconnected from real life. If Bisignano can make even small improvements in how people experience the IRS or Social Security, faster refunds, shorter wait times, clearer answers, that could start to rebuild some of that trust. But if things get worse, it could deepen frustration. So what does this mean for you? Well, in the short term, nothing dramatic changes right away. Your Social Security payments and tax refunds are still handled the same way. But over time, we might start seeing changes in how the two agencies coordinate, maybe more digital tools, faster verification systems, or new ways to check your status. The hope is that this leads to better service. But if you start noticing longer delays, mixed messages, or confusion between what the IRS and Social Security are saying, that could be a sign that the overlap isn't going as smoothly as planned. So it's something worth keeping an eye on in the months ahead. And I'm curious, how do you feel about this move? Do you think one person leading both the IRS and Social Security could actually make government more efficient? Or do you think it's just too much power and responsibility for one person to handle? Let me know your thoughts below, because I think a lot of people have mixed feelings about this one. And as always, I'll be keeping a close eye on how it unfolds, because the way these agencies perform doesn't just affect the headlines. It affects your taxes, your benefits, and your peace of mind.